Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to the spotlight session of Global Schools Forum. Thank you everyone for joining from very different parts of the world. And we already have 20 people in, and we have many people coming in from the waiting room. So as you join in, please do write your name and do write your where you're joining from. It'll be really good to know who's joining and where from. We're really, really excited. Spotlight sessions are always an amazing experience. It's not ever limited to the GSF community, but the entire education community overall. We record these sessions as well so that we can keep them available and have learn from the organizations and have their narrative recorded for us through and throughout. It's a monthly space. This is our 10th session and really, really excited. Its space is unique because it's an interactive session where we invite an organization to is my audio visible? Sorry, am I able?
You
Yes,
are
we can
now.
hear you,
You
Ajay.
are now, Ajay.
Oh, was I not audible earlier?
You just
Great,
cut out
welcome.
for a couple of seconds.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Overall, I was audible. Perfect.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, I'm happy to repeat. But yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. And this is our 10th spotlight session. It's really, really amazing to have everyone join. It's an interactive session where we invite organizations to make themselves visible, talk about something which they've worked on, they're excited about, and share it with the larger education community. It is also a chance to make connections, foster collaboration, and keep the conversation going. So thank you for joining us. Today is a special day as well. On June 15th, every year since 2014, the World Youth Skills Day has been celebrated as a reminder to raise awareness for the significance of giving young people the tools they need to succeed in this unfamiliar world as we continue to grow in. And we really, really are excited to have Christel out with us, who has been working so many years to bring change and to understand the journey of students, I think, very, very curiously. The special topic for today is strengthening the youth self-efficacy for economic mobility. Of course, Caitlin and Raina will speak more about it. I will introduce them and Crystal House before I give the floor to them. But before that, grateful for your presence. We really encourage and appreciate if you switch off everything else you have right now in front of you except the screen and you fully be present over here, because that's where the magic really, really comes about. So before I hand it over, we want to use the chat box to get to know each other a bit. So if you could tell us, where are you joining from? What is that one thing you're looking forward to learn today? And the third and the most important question, if you have experienced or you know of somebody, what is the feeling a youth experiences when he or she or them experience unemployment in this unfamiliar world? I'll pause over here, take your time, and share it over the chat. And if somebody feels like unmuting themselves and sharing their experience verbally, you're more than welcome to. Wow, we have people from all over the globe. Thank you, Greg. There's a feeling of losing hope, despair, frustration, loss of confidence. Because many times we talk about facts, what happened, but the feeling really, really captures a lot more. And it's also interesting to read the third question's response with the second question, because While there's a feeling of despondent, rejected, unsupported, there is a desire to learn approach of what does holistic youth development really mean. So yeah, let the chat continue. Let me go ahead in the interest of time, but let the chat continue so that you can read about it. About the Global Schools Forum, I'm sure many of you are already familiar with it, but to be just summary, our vision is nothing but your vision too. It's a collective vision of realizing the potential of creating safe spaces for quality education everywhere. Our mission is to bring the non-state education organizations together as they continue to fulfill the task and the work they are doing in low middle income countries across the world. We, with your support, have grown to 128 organizations today across 60 countries, and you collectively are serving 24 million children with so many schools and teachers being impacted, and we are learning from them simultaneously. So thank you for this humbling journey with us. Wanted to share a bit about Crystal House, which you're already familiar with, and I'm sure Crystal House will explain much more in their own beautiful way, where it's been 25 years of journey with simplicity of hope and a very powerful journey of learning while children experiencing poverty. What do they really need more from a school? I think that's such an interesting and such an humbling question to ask. And they have grown with 20,000 students in schools in India, Jamaica, Mexico, South Africa, and Indianapolis. And today they will share an exciting news about where they're growing further. Really, really excited to hear about that as well. The focus for today is on the importance of self-efficacy for youth. What does it really mean? What positive life outcomes can it be as a result? And how has Crystal House model evolved to help kids strengthen their self-efficacy? We have speaking with us today, Caitlin Teague, President, Programs and Services, Crystal House International. Thank you, Caitlin, for joining us. Raina Mansakhani, Vice President, Expansion, Crystal House International. Thank you, Raina, for joining us. And we have many, many, many more members from Crystal House joining us today. We're very, very thankful to each one of you and everyone else who's joined in. So, yep, over to you, Caitlin and Raina, to take this ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I also want to, before we get started, note that we have two of our graduates on the call today who will be sharing a little bit about their experiences later. Lauren Daniels with Growth Smart Education Program, and Angel Kumar, who is our lead social worker at our school in Bangalore. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, we are gathering, as Ajay mentioned, on World Youth Skills Day to take a look at self-efficacy for economic mobility. First, let me tell you quickly a little bit about my background. I can't believe it. I've been working in education for almost 20 years now. It seems impossible, but I've worked from the classroom all the way to the Indiana State Department of Education. But for the last 10 years, I've been working with Crystal House International, and one of my focus areas has been on our college and careers programming globally. Today, we're going to consider the challenge, as I mentioned, of economic mobility, the why behind the need for self-efficacy, and what we've learned as we engage in this work. We're going to take some time, as I mentioned, hear from Crystal House alumni and have Q&A, and then share some exciting news about Crystal House expansion and an opportunity for you to share in your network. An intro to Crystal House. Ajay did a great job teeing this up, but just again, Crystal House is a nonprofit network of schools serving K-12 plus students and learners from under-resourced communities and dedicated to more equitable futures by preparing our graduates to achieve upward economic mobility while realizing their goals, their dreams, and their human potential. We do this through a model of holistic development, partnership, and a long-term commitment. Our model responds to what we all understand, that young people need strong physical and mental health, socio-emotional learning, as well as character development and leadership development, and systems of caring adults so that they can thrive in an educational environment meant to challenge them academically with rigorous academics while supporting their achievement. And Crystal House's long-term focus on life outcomes also causes us to provide a cross-cutting college and careers program with career exploration and guidance K through 12, then one-on-one coaching and alumni programming for our graduates for 5 years after high school graduation to support that transition to and through post-secondary or tertiary education and into the workforce. We currently operate 9 schools in 5 countries, spanning a variety of mostly urban contexts. In our 25-year history, we've served around 20,000 students, and we're still growing, so more on this later. But to move to the challenge that we're discussing today, we certainly, and everyone who's on the call, understand the challenge that's presented to youth. As we gather on this World Youth Skills Day, we recognize that there is much work to be done in creating equitable opportunities for youth to reach their goals. Just a few years ago, as you see on the screen, there were around twice as many youth who were unemployed or out of the labor force globally than there were employed youth internationally. And the youth population will be a growing one in the coming years, especially in low-income countries and contexts. This is an astounding challenge, and yet I find hope in that educators understand that we must respond by considering what we do at the K-12 space to prepare students not just to pass tests, but to have the knowledge, beliefs, and skills necessary to be workforce ready, upwardly mobile, and to achieve their own goals. Given this challenge and the Crystal House mission, Crystal House graduates have been chipping away at these statistics. 95% of our graduates are working or studying. This means that globally, only 5% of our graduates are not in employment, education, or training. This is the globally used NEET rate. While in the countries in which we operate, the average NEET rate sat at nearly 1/3 of the 20 to 24-year-olds in that country. We also track the quality of employment for our graduates, and in 2023, 73% of our graduates were working in high-quality early career jobs, meaning their earnings set them up for financial stability at age 23 when they exit our CNC program or shortly thereafter. But when we first pulled these statistics several years ago, something nagged at us. What was happening to that other quarter or so of our graduates who are either underemployed or unemployed? And so we worked with these graduates on a root cause analysis, which means we essentially interviewed graduates who were not achieving their career goals and asked why at least 5 times, or until it seemed that we could not explain the cause any further. This method is therefore meant to yield the root cause of the issue you're studying. So very quickly, and you'll notice I give opportunities for this throughout the presentation, but I'd like for you to share in the chat, and I'll share our results in a moment. But what do you think you'd find if you asked the same questions of your graduates, of the students who've matriculated through your school and on to the next phase in their education or into the workforce? What do you think you would find if you asked those graduates who are not achieving their goals why at least 5 times? What 1 or 2 root causes do you think you'd find? Again, please put your answer in the chat, and I'll be interested to seeing those answers roll in as we move forward. So, what did we find? Here are our results. You see to the right the trends that emerge from our, given this is a small n size, I'll just say that right now, but given our root cause analysis, these are the trends that we saw. What stuck out to us was that there still seemed to be another root cause or another factor that tied several of our other findings together. Despite all the programming we had to prepare them for tertiary education and the workforce, despite rigorous academics and a positive environment designed to foster self-confidence, graduates just did not feel ready to take the next steps. They shared feelings of low confidence and maybe a lack of motivation against what they felt were overwhelming odds. At the same time, we were starting to study this concept of self-efficacy, and we realized that what we were hearing from our graduates who weren't achieving their goals was often this drumbeat of a lack of self-efficacy related to tertiary education in the workforce. You see, self-efficacy is a person's belief they can succeed in a particular situation. It is, as they say, domain specific and not the same as self-confidence, which is global, a global sense of your belief in your ability. With self-efficacy, you can believe in your ability in one setting or domain or situation, but not in another. So my favorite example here is you may feel very efficacious cooking in the kitchen, but less efficacious if you're on the side of a mountain, say rock climbing. But you may recognize this certainly in your classrooms with students who have a strong sense of self-efficacy in math, let's say, but a less stronger sense of self-efficacy in language classes. So why do we care about self-efficacy? Why does this matter? Because people with a strong sense of self-efficacy exhibit a ton of behaviors that we know help us and our students succeed in the classroom, but certainly important tasks outside the classroom and into careers as well. People with a strong sense of self-efficacy and in a certain domain are both more perseverant and more passionate about related activities. And you know that's Duckworth's two ingredients for grit. They bounce back more quickly after setbacks and are willing to take on a challenge because they believe they are likely to succeed. Whereas those without self-efficacy or a low sense or a weak sense of self-efficacy in a certain domain tend to avoid challenging tasks. They don't necessarily expect to be successful in the domain in which they have low self-efficacy. They tend to focus on the negative outcomes and aren't as perseverant. Therefore, creating a strong sense of self-efficacy related to tertiary education and or desired career pathways for our students is a useful component to post-secondary outcomes and economic mobility. So, how do you develop or influence a student's sense of self-efficacy in domains of interest? This is where we really get into the theory. Albert Bandura, who pioneered this work in the 70s and beyond, according to him, there are 4 influences to self-efficacy. These are, as you see on the screen, mastery experiences, vicarious learning, social persuasion, and your emotional and physical state. Today, I'll be focusing mostly on the first 2 on this list and mastery experiences in particular. But I'll share my slides afterwards so you can learn more about the other 2. Certainly, you can do research on your own as well. Now, this is the moment when I say that even though we've been exploring self-efficacy and how to influence it through our programming, we're also very much still learning and still working to put this theory into practice. So we're excited to hear what others are doing in this arena as well. Today, I'm mostly going to focus my comments on developing self-efficacy related to tertiary education and career. But there's a whole body of work out there that Crystal House is just now really delving into as a network around fostering academic self-efficacy in the classroom. But I won't be going into as much detail on that today. My final caveat is, as you all know, there's no silver bullet in education. That's an idiom, but it just means there's no one simple solution to solve all the problems. We think that self-efficacy is an important contributor to graduate success, but there are many factors that play a role. And finally, I'd like to give credit to Dr. Mandy Savitz-Romer of Harvard University, because much of her research, writing, and guidance has helped shape our understanding and approach towards self-efficacy. So let's jump in on the first influence. And that's mastery experiences. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this. Creating opportunities for students to experience mastery means creating opportunities for them to successfully engage in activities related to that domain. Mastery experiences are the most powerful source of self-efficacy because they're based on firsthand experience, not requiring visualization or a leap of faith that you can accomplish the task. Mastery experiences provide the participant with concrete evidence of their abilities and skills, and they reinforce self-efficacy beliefs in their domain. Please take a moment, and again, I encourage you to share reflections in the chat. Consider a domain in which you experience a sense of self-efficacy. Maybe you feel efficacious about being a school leader, with communication, with fundraising. Maybe you feel efficacious about taking tests or presenting at GSF. Chances are that you've been successful in related experiences over time. Your efficacy has been informed by past mastery experiences in which you performed well. The outcome was good. And you could transfer those positive experiences into self-efficacy in that particular domain to take on more challenging tasks. What were one or two of those mastery experiences that led to a sense of self-efficacy in your chosen domain? And again, please share in the chat. And I see those coming in, curating learning experiences, connecting, mentoring. Yeah, and what were the experiences that helped you develop that sense of self-efficacy? Go ahead and keep sharing in the chat. But I'll continue. To give an example of what this might look like in schools for students to feel efficacious about going to and succeeding in tertiary study, for example, they have to feel they've been successful in situations that are similar to or related to going on to tertiary, like attending a one-day or multi-day experience at a university campus, successfully cracking a university entrance exam, and or completing coursework that is closely matched to a tertiary course of study. The more opportunities we give our students to earn success in tasks and experiences related to tertiary education in this case, and reflect positively on those experiences, the more tertiary related self-efficacy they will likely develop. However, specific aspects of the mastery experience matter. For example, the difficulty of the task, the amount of effort you expended, and the amount of help you received will all influence how you interpret your success or failure at a given task. So, consider students who feel a low sense of self-efficacy in math classes. Maybe they've performed poorly in previous math classes, which would be like almost a negative mastery experience. But even if they were successful in previous math classes, sometimes they may attribute their success to an easy teacher or getting a lot of help. In other words, they don't feel efficacious in math because they didn't think the task was very hard, or they felt they expended little of their own energy because the person helping them did most of the work. Therefore, mastery experiences need to fall within the zone of proximal development. It's a big phrase, but a concept some of you may be familiar with. You need to set a realistic and specific goals that are slightly above the student's current level of performance. But it can't be too hard. It needs to be a stretch, not a leap. This places importance on scaffolding. For example, we know that it is critical to get our students into job settings in which they have interest while they're still with us in high school, if possible. But we apply a gradual exposure and release model to this work. Where possible, they may have career weeks and guest speakers when they're younger, building to industry tours in 9th and 10th grade, one-on-one job shadows in 11th grade, and HR speed interviews with external professionals in 12th grade. In addition, as we are able, we are looking for career-related work, volunteer, internship opportunities during school vacation, specifically after 11th grade. These high school experiences scaffold towards career-related self-efficacy while students are still with us in school and help them choose their next steps after graduation. If my examples don't fit your context, get creative. How can you scaffold career-related mastery experiences into your programming in a way that works for you? Can students shadow members of the school staff, conduct informational interviews with network staff, do service learning in communities in related careers of interest? We're interested in hearing your ideas. So again, as you process this idea of mastery experiences and how to connect mastery experiences for career, for tertiary education to the work you're doing in the schools, I encourage you to put that into the chat. Let us all learn from one another about how we can best support students in these transitions. I also want to mention, as I said previously, that the amount of effort expended and the amount of help you receive also affects self-efficacy. Mandy Savitz-Romer says, and I quote, "We often see well-meaning adults take on many of the responsibilities for college or university planning and preparation, rather than helping youth develop the self-regulatory skills to complete the tasks themselves." So I ask you again to reflect. Can you think of a time when you may have provided too much help to a student, to the point where they may not have attributed their success to themselves? Can you think of some practices in your schools right now where this could be the case? I encourage you once again to share reflections in the chat. I see there's a question here. How does one demonstrate significance of these abstract signs of self-efficacy? And in this process, are there any embedded patterns of teaching and learning challenged? Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I'm not as much getting into the academic processes to uh, to impact academic self-efficacy. But there's a whole range of work out there that speaks to how do we help students in the classroom set their own academic goals, monitor their own progress towards their goals, and then do that metacognition work around how did I achieve my goals. That's just one example of a way in which you can use mastery experiences in the classroom and make that process clear to students of what skills they used to reach their goals. It's also, you can break the goals down into smaller goals, etc. There's another set of work around self-efficacy that gets really clear about how you give praise in the classroom. Specifically, how you pull out specific examples of student skills that can then be transferred to other academic areas. So there are a number of strategies, and those are just a few that I mentioned, a number of strategies that the academic world has drawn down on to increase student academic-related self-efficacy. That's a whole other body of work. So I'm going to go on to the second influence, or the second way in which we can help develop self-efficacy in students. So in addition to mastering a task, that mastery experience, we can encourage the development of efficacy by watching others succeed in that same domain. And this is something that's called vicarious learning. So in order for students to feel as though they can pursue higher education, for example, it helps to see others successfully navigating that transition. Consider your strong sense of self-efficacy. Again, my favorite is to reference cooking. If you have a strong sense of self-efficacy in cooking, did it help to watch others do it? Maybe you watched a cooking show, or when you were growing up, uh, you watched your grandmother cook in the kitchen, and you learned by watching her. These observations are important learning experiences, and they build self-efficacy. But again, certain aspects of the observation matter. Importantly, perceived similarity. If students see people succeeding in a domain as significantly different from themselves, it's not as positively influential to their self-efficacy. For vicarious learning and how we've applied this in some of our work, we looked closely at the guest speakers coming into our schools to speak during assemblies or career weeks or in classrooms. Were our students perceiving similarity with the speakers in terms of background and lived experience? We amplified our efforts to seek guest speakers, role models, mentors, with whom our students would perceive similarities, and asking our graduates to come back when they could, to speak to our students about what worked for them in tertiary education and the workforce, what challenges they may have faced, and how they address those challenges. This can help students build their belief that they too can be successful in tertiary education and in their workforce aspirations. I see a question in the chat. How do you measure self-efficacy? Um, Employability, so many factors feeding into the NEAT rate. Absolutely. So there are some relatively short surveys that you can use that are globally available. I believe there's just a suite of 3 to 6 questions that are meant intentionally to measure a student's sense of self-efficacy. Now, you do have to remember, again, self-efficacy is domain specific. It's not self-confidence. So the survey questions have to be targeted towards a specific domain. But we do have, and we do use with our graduates some of these survey questions to measure self-efficacy and to see how we're doing in our work to develop their sense of self-efficacy towards careers in tertiary education. Thanks for asking. I'm not going to go into social persuasion, which educators tend to be good on. It's essentially encouraging, although again, there are some specific ways in which you can use social persuasion to most influence student self-efficacy. I'm not going to go into this or the emotional or physical state of students, of individuals, and how those influence self-efficacy as much today. But again, after the session, I'll share my slides and you can look into that a little further. So high level, what have we learned? What have we learned as we've explored university and career-related self-efficacy that can contribute to economic mobility for our graduates? First, we cannot wait until students are out in the workforce or out in university to try and start building self-efficacy in these domains. We can't even wait until their senior year or their final year with us. We need to foster practices and scaffold experiences that are developmentally appropriate throughout a student's career. Next, we must create space for students to fail safely, is how we talk about it sometimes, fail safely when they're with us, as well as succeed on their own power. Now, there are certainly times when extra support is needed, but there are also times where giving too much support could undermine a student's sense of self-efficacy. So, for example, our college and careers team, which again works with our graduates for 5 years after high school graduation, has found that if they play too large of a role in helping our graduates secure employment, often the graduates will struggle in feeling as if they haven't earned the position, even if they have. So in some ways, we've started to scale back our involvement. It's also important to help students make meaning of their own success at a mastery experience related to tertiary and career domains. And so it's powerful to help them reflect on the experience. What skills help them to succeed? And how might those skills help them to succeed in related areas? These conversations can be critical to helping young people make meaning and allow these experiences to shape their self-efficacy in that domain. Finally, there's something called attribution theory related to self-efficacy and mastery experiences. The question is, when a student masters something, to whom or to what do they attribute their success? And it's always important to ensure that the language we use helps students attribute success to themselves. Are there phrases used in your school that give credit for student successes to something other than student effort? Of course, we know that a school requires a whole community to achieve its goals, and expressing gratitude can be important. But we find ourselves being mindful of the language we use when talking with students and graduates, placing student effort at the center of their successes. So here's the reflection question I'd love for you to share on in the chat. Do any of these resonate with you? And or are there ways in which you think your school is excelling in supporting tertiary and career-related self-efficacy in students? If so, put your comments in the chat, put your comments in about these reflections, and I look forward to seeing those come in. So while you are doing that, and I'll stop sharing my screen here in a moment, I want to again introduce two of Crystal House graduates who we will hear from now. I already introduced them at the start, but just in the case that everyone wasn't here, I want to introduce Lauren Daniels, who works with Grow Smart Education Program, and Angel Kumar, who works with our school at Crystal House, Bangalore. Lauren Daniels is a project coordinator with Grow Smart, and I am going to tee up the question for her first. So Lauren, um, I so enjoy talking with you, and I've heard you say that it's critical for you to know that you've earned your place in the workforce, in your job, that you have all the tools that you need to be successful, that you have all of those tools. And it's important for you to believe to your core that you really belong in your space. What kind of experiences helped you to build these beliefs for yourself?
Thank you for your question, Caitlin. I just want to check before I continue if everyone can hear me, if I'm clear enough. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. To answer your question, Caitlin, I'm going to have to start with what you would, I believe, call my mastery experiences, right? Both personal, academic, professional. A lot of the times they actually intersect, and that intersection is where I really needed to learn how to understand my own power in any space that I work in. So, in the chat, you asked earlier, what are some of those experiences that you had that would make you feel that you had self-efficacy in a certain domain. So for me, I was always academically strong and gifted. I always performed well academically in high school, primary school, and even at university. And I am someone who is very much um, independent. I like to take ownership of everything that I do. And so I always used my own initiative to learn, to study hard, to do the extra work in high school and to help me get those good grades, right? So by the time I needed to go to university, I did not think that I would struggle. I felt like it was a natural extension of what I was already doing. Um, and of course, to some degree, that was influenced and colored by my experiences at Crystal House and the support that I was given by my teachers, who I considered in many and still do consider in many ways mentors. Um, and so for me, that transition from high school to university was relatively smooth insofar as my academic performance. You and I have had this discussion prior where the actual transition to get there was a little harder for me because being the independent and spirited person that I am, I tried to do a lot of my college applications by myself with no guidance. And so I made a few mistakes that resulted in me having to spend the first year out of high school, not necessarily at the college of my choice. So I studied for a year while I waited to go on to the university that I eventually would graduate from, which is Stellenbosch University. And then I went on to do postgraduate work. And that experience of essentially putting all my eggs in one basket and doing things in a just sort of hyper independent way was what taught me that asking for help is not a weakness, and that, I can do a lot more with the support and the guidance of the people who actually want to see me succeed. Um, One of our values at Crystal House is independence, and I think that was the one I took a little bit more seriously than the rest. I think at some point, um, but definitely when I arrived into the academic space now as a university student, I knew that the onus was on me to make that experience what I wanted it to be. And so once again, that lessons of independence came into play. And when I entered the workforce, things changed. So this was a brand new environment. I started off as a graduate intern at Growth Point Properties, who are the founders of the Grow Smart educational program. And I had never worked in a corporate setting before, so this was brand new to me. I was absolutely terrified, and I didn't know what to expect. Um, but again, me being me, I was very hard on myself in the beginning. I expected myself to have known things that I had no way of knowing until I actually set foot in that environment. And so it was a learning experience that I just made all the more difficult for myself because of these expectations that I had. And again, warring with feelings of, I don't know how to do this. Does that make me worthy of this space? And that's when I began to learn that as much as we require obviously our technical skills in order to execute our jobs, how we feel about the role, how we feel about our presence in an organization is just as, if not more important. And that's when it began to click for me that, wait a second, I may not know how to draw up a budget, or I don't know how to do a project management plan, but does that make me any less worthy to be here? um, and when I began to make those connections is when I began to realize, wait a second, everything that I've been through, that I have done and achieved up until this moment, has made me worthy of being in this space. Number one. Number two, realizing that made me allow myself to learn and to make the mistakes that I would inevitably make, um, and I'm still making. Um, and to learn to navigate myself as a young professional in the workplace, it just helped me to do everything from a place of openness, of eagerness to learn, but not apologetic, and not from a space of lacking. Um, and that allowed me to open myself up to mentorship, to teaching, and to making the mistakes that I made, um, all of which were learning curves in the end. And so mastery experiences, and a lot of the times it isn't necessarily a situational thing, but more a feeling. So those feelings of not belonging, feelings of inadequacy, are things that eventually pushed me in the direction of realizing that no, no, no. Before I even stepped into the space, I already knew who I was. I knew I had everything I needed to succeed in this role. Now I just need to allow myself the opportunity to fail and fail forward. And that's what my self-efficacy journey taught me in these various domains, is that I am still studying. I'm doing my master's degree in anthropology currently. And so even this is a new experience. As much as I thought that I sort of owned the academic domain, this is a new learning curve. Postgraduate work and independent research is new to me. And so my work experiences led me to understand this new experience and why I felt like a fish out of water the first time I put together my research proposal. But now I completely understand and I could make those connections without feeling like I don't have the skills. And because I come from, a disadvantaged community and background, I don't deserve to be here. Those beliefs have now flown out the window, and it's important for me now to assert myself in any space that I enter.
Lauren, every time I talk to you, I find myself incredibly inspired. Thanks for sharing your journey with us. I should have mentioned or added the caveat that Lauren Daniels and Angel Kumar are both some of our older graduates. They're from some of our earlier cohorts. And it's actually from speaking with graduates like them that we've learned and worked to incorporate a little bit from their experiences and understand how we can go and do some backwards mapping to strengthen our programming. Lauren, I heard you really speak to some moments of or times where there were opportunities for vicarious learning, and certainly you. It's really neat to hear how you speak to current students or some of our younger graduates even, so that they can hear that a pathway, post-secondary or pathway isn't always a straight line. That's something else you've shared with me. And yet you can still learn from each of those experiences to build on for the next. So thank you, Lauren. Appreciate your sharing. Angel, of course, you are both a Crystal House graduate and now you're a Crystal House employee working at our school in Bangalore. And I am curious, looking back, what were some of the most impactful ways or what were the ways in which Crystal House supported your tertiary or career-related self-efficacy? And how do you then now seek to build that into your current work with students at the school?
Hi, everybody. Caitlin, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Ma'am. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. To answer your question, Crystal House played a vital role in developing my self-efficacy. Now, when I look back, there are several impactful ways that I want to talk about. Now, first and foremost is definitely the strong foundation that Crystal House gave me in academics. The rigorous curriculum, the dedicated teachers, all of them ensured that, I had the knowledge and skills that is necessary to succeed in higher education, in my college education. This academic support was crucial in building my confidence, which in turn made me feel prepared and capable of handling challenges when I stepped into college and workforce. Also to talk about how Crystal House offered extensive and structured career counseling programs, which exposed me to different career paths. Through several workshops, guest speakers, I was able to explore various professions and understand the skills required for each of these professions. The structured program also helped me identify my interests, what I was good at, and set realistic goals. This in turn helped me make informed decisions about my future. And that's how I figured out psychology was what I wanted to pursue. The school's emphasis on holistic performance also played a significant role. It's not just about academic excellence, but also a lot about personal growth and emotional well-being. Several programs were focused on developing several skills, like several vital skills, like leadership, teamwork, communication skills, all of which strengthened my beliefs in my own abilities. Participating in extracurricular activities, inter-school competitions, and community service projects, all of this helps me build those skills. If I have to talk about one particular opportunity that really helped me build all of these skills, was the opportunity that I was given to attend a leadership camp in the US. I interacted with students from 40 different countries, and to somebody who was somebody who's not even traveled out of state, this was a huge opportunity. It helped me come out of my comfort zone. from leadership class to water skiing class, there was something or the other that I learned. Those 6 months of multicultural experience taught me so many skills to accept change and to embrace change. Another important aspect of Christel House support was the mentorship support that I received. Christel House made it possible to have access to these mentors who provided, constant guidance, encouragement, feedback, all of which was immensely beneficial. This support helped me navigate many uncertainties and many challenges that came up during my higher education and also while I started working. These mentors at Christel House believed in my potential, which significantly boosted my self-efficacy. The most important lesson that I've learned is at Christel House is not to give up and to be always positive about things. I've also started learning to look at problems as challenges and to face them with courage. So that is about me, how Christel House has helped me. Now, if I have to talk about what I currently do with the students, in my current role, I work with students. I strive to build on this impactful experience that I've had. I focus on developing socio-emotional skills, life skills through our character development program, making sure that students feel prepared to step out into the world. I also offer career counseling, wishing to expose these students to various career options to help them make informed decisions, just like how I was helped while I was at school. I would also like to talk about 2 programs that we run. We run 2 programs with the help of our alumni. The first one is the Role Model Speaker Series, which has our working alumni address our students on topics like importance of education, ways to improve employability skills, and other relevant topics, which is really effective. The other program is the Alumni Mentorship Program. We handpick students, especially kids who are in 10th high school, who require that extra support, and we assign them to alumni who can guide them and mentor them. Overall, Christel House's approach to education, which combines academic rigor, career exposure, strong mentorship program, all of this had a profound impact on my self-efficacy. By inculcating these elements into my work with students, I wish to empower the students to achieve their full potential.
Thank you. Thanks, Angel. I so love the experience you had coming to the US and how that contributed. And I also love the work that you're doing at the school level with the inter-school competitions, et cetera, to really give our students opportunities to interact with students from different backgrounds and experience and mastery that can help assist them as they move into post-secondary. Thank you. And the Role Model Speaker Series and the alumni mentorship is phenomenal. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your experience. I think we do have some time for Q&A now. Just 5 minutes or so? Good. 5 minutes. I think some questions came in through the chat that I didn't get to as I was speaking. So if folks want to unmute or put additional questions in the chat at this time, you can certainly ask questions of Lauren, Angel, myself. Happy to speak to it. Okay, is there an example of showing how language matters? This is a controversial take on a little bit of the language we use with Christel House, but something that I think of, for years we have used the tagline, and there's nothing terribly wrong with this, but we've used the tagline of Christel House transforming lives. And I just say that to say that we've come to challenge or question if that's always the right messaging to use. Now, this is also another moment to speak to external messaging and internal messaging. So what messages are we using with external audiences versus internal audiences? But what we ultimately want to message to our students is that they are the agents who transform their lives, which is the truth. Crystal House, in my opinion, really provides the platforms of equitable opportunities for our students to reach their own goals, because it is always on the power of our students that they're achieving their tertiary related, career related goals. And so that's one example, but there were other ways in which we at times spoke to the work that we were doing with the students, where we weren't always attributing success to the students themselves. So it's almost like just looking across your universe of messaging and challenging whether each phrase or tagline that you use that have become part of your community, if that serves your students well, and again, how are you using it internally and externally? I think there was another question about sharing the items, the survey items related to self-efficacy, and certainly we can do that. Any other questions for Lauren, Angel, myself? If not, we'll go ahead and go on to and I'll pass it over to Rena as she starts to speak to some of our exciting growth plans, and I'll keep monitoring the chat if anyone wants to put additional questions into the chat.
Thank you so much, Caitlin, and good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Ajay introduced me at the beginning, but I'm the Vice President of Expansion at Crystal House. I'm signing in from Mumbai, India, and thank you for joining today. So as Caitlin shared, we are a network of 9 schools across 5 countries, and our successful outcomes have proven that our model works. So with this success, we've developed a plan to expand our impact both within our existing countries and into new countries. So today we're really excited to announce a new fellowship program to expand our model into new countries. So the Global Path Builders Fellowship is a 2-year fully paid program for visionary leaders to launch and run Crystal House schools in 2 new countries. So you'll see here on the map, we've identified 6 target countries, which include Colombia, Peru, Ghana, Kenya, Nepal, and Bangladesh. And we're hoping to attract strong applicants from these countries. And we will award the Global Path Builders Fellowship to 2 of the strongest applicants from 2 countries. Through the 2-year fellowship, Crystal House will provide fellows with the time, resources, strategic and financial support needed to successfully launch new Crystal House schools. The first year of the fellowship, fellows will spend time in our existing Crystal House schools, seeing the model in action and getting to know their colleagues around the world. In their second year, the fellow will begin to mobilize resources, hire key team members, and really begin to build the Crystal House School. And in this second year, the fellow will also transition to the full-time role of CEO of Crystal House in their country. On the next slide, I'll just share a little bit about the candidate we're looking for. We're looking for someone with 10 plus years of experience who is committed to changing life outcomes for children and family from under-resourced communities. Ideal candidate is highly entrepreneurial with a proven track record of fundraising and initiating and leading projects or organizations. And just a note, this role is different from a principal or a chief academic officer role. The fellow will hire a principal in the second year of their fellowship. And then lastly, a request, we would, on the next slide, we would love your help with spreading the word about the Global Path Builders Fellowship through your networks. So if you know someone who would be a good fit for the role, we would love for you to nominate them. If you're open to partnering with us to help spread the word, please reach out. And we will also be visiting the 6 countries I mentioned between September and November of this year. And we'd love to meet with any of you on this call or any of your connections that are in these countries. Ajay will be sharing our presentation that has the contact information, and my colleague Steph has also put those details here. But we'd love to hear from you if you can help us spread the word. And then lastly, Christel House is also hosting a webinar in August. It's centered around the theme of tackling youth unemployment through successful college and career initiatives. We'll have a panel of leaders from across the globe. And in that session, we'll also share more information about the fellowship. So please look out for details on that webinar in upcoming GSF newsletter. The applications for the fellowship will open on our website in the second week of August. So we'd love to hear from you if you would like to hear more information, partner with us, or know someone who would be a good fit for the role. And I'm happy to answer any other questions about the fellowship. We have some of our partners actually on this call who are really helping us spread the word. So thank you, and thank you for joining.
Great. I think we can take any questions on the fellowship now, if anyone has them, or again, you can pop them into the chat. All right. If we don't have any questions at the moment, I think I can pass it back to Ajay if he has any wrap-up items for us today.
This was really, really incredible. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Thank you, Raina and Lauren and Angel. I think just listening to both of you, I'm sure people just went back to their youth and really just connected with themselves, or not with themselves, saying that I didn't get that opportunity at the time. What you shared about your career, I wrote to Mercy separately. She's from GSM, and like, oh, we can resonate right now as well, because there are so many things we struggle with, and it directly goes into self-doubt. The conversation directly connects with, am I not good enough? Is there a problem with me? And maybe because in our secondary schools or in our conversations, we've never been really consciously taught about that. It's all about academics or career or growth, but not really about your own positioning or where you are. So thank you for sharing about yourself so wholeheartedly. And thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Ryan. It's really, really beautiful. We often always do one thing, which is let me share my screen, because that becomes a thing. Yeah. So we would love to have you all on the screen together so that we can smile. And we have a count from 5 to 1. So it gives you the time. Because I have 2 screens, so I'll take 2 pictures. We'll wait for everyone to sign in, show up, and let me count from 5 to 1. So 5, 4, 3, 2, still waiting, 1, and 0 for a smile. Let's wait, hold, because there's another, yeah. So again, 3, 2, 1. Good. Some of you would have come on the first screen. Some of you would have come on the second screen. Hopefully, we've not missed anyone. We always do a poll as well. It really helps us. We've done 10 sessions so far. But if you also want to, your organization to be spotlighted, it will be wholeheartedly an honor for us and for everyone else to learn from each other as well. You can reach out to us. But there's a simple poll. It'll take a few seconds. So please, before dropping out, if you could fill in these 3 questions to help us strengthen. And of course, while you're doing this, in the meanwhile, if you have any questions or even thoughts, please, you want to voice it out, you can unmute yourself and share.
If I may share something about just regarding the question earlier about the importance of and the impact of language. I have been fortunate enough to participate or contribute rather to the reporting of the Grow Smart educational program. So because we are an NPO, we do submit quarterly social ethics and transformation reports about the program and its beneficiaries. And I will say, because of our target audiences who primarily come from socioeconomically challenged backgrounds and schools who are underperforming in communities that are underserved, we also, I've learned that we also needed to be very careful about the language we use when we speak about our service, number one, to those communities. And also what our expectations are for the learners who are coming through the program. Um, and as someone who has also come through the program, I have the unique position of having been on both sides of the coin, both at the receiving end of exactly the kind of language Ms. Caitlin was talking about, and finding myself on the other side of the fence where I was participating in curating said language. And I found that it was extremely important for the team to understand, because a lot of the times I work with people who are concerned only with the statistics and the metrics, without necessarily telling the story about the quantitative lived experiences that these metrics represent. And so sometimes the language can come across as very sort of impersonal, uninvolved. And a lot of the times, the purpose of this report is quite the opposite. It is to show the impact, it is to show our intention, it's to show our mission, and yet the language conveys something entirely different. And so that is also something that I'm learning is that we really need to choose how we present information, especially if it's information about a situation that isn't necessarily something that the curators understand. And by understand, I mean not necessarily their lived reality or their lived experience on a day to day basis. And so that's why I made it my mission to, whenever we are in the process of submitting these kinds of reports, to focus on how we think the use of this language would make people feel. Um, because that's just as important as the quantitative data. So yeah, definitely resonated with that question of language because it matters.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate you sharing.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. That gives us the last and the most beautiful thought to conclude this session. So thank you, everyone, for joining in. And till we meet next time, have a beautiful morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are.
Thank you,
you so
everybody.
much. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you,
Bye.
extra, Lauren. Angel, thank you.
Global Foods Forum. Thank you, everyone, for joining from very different parts of the world. And we already have 20 people in, and we have many people coming.